What's up, my fellow degenerates? No, it's not your usual host, Steve Bonham, or your sharply dressed host, Jack Kavanaugh. It is I, your favorite degenerate wager of football and such, Mason Cameron. Jack is out of town. Steve is too big for us now. So they've entrusted me with the keys to this Ferrari. So just don't tell them when this show inevitably goes off the rails and into the abyss. So, business as usual. I'm here with my partner in crime, Vishal Gupta. There's no rest for the wicked, Vishal. We're back at it. So, how's it going?
Doing good, and I'm excited to start a new football season. Kind of turn the chapter here, starting with the combine.
Yeah, it should be fun. The NFL never sleeps, and we're right
Nope.
back at it. And I love that because we were eating for lines. You and me, we were searching all week. We were excited, and we're happy that we got these lines so that we could bring them out, talk about them a little bit. And we've cooked up a special one today. Joining us, Degen Betters, for the collab you've all been waiting for is the IN Dynasty editor and lead, Ben Strauss. How are you doing, Ben? And we're so excited to finally get you on here and talk some football. In the combine, no better time to do it. It's the NFL Underwear Olympics. We're going to get a lot of good stuff going on. How are you feeling?
Hey man, yeah, good to be here. Really excited to be with y'all here. And yeah, like I kind of like Vishal was saying, I'm excited for football to be back. I've been sort of just looking at mock drafts that look sort of similar the past like month. So now we're getting to this stage here where we've got the Underwear Olympics coming up, that drives some headlines. Then you got the pro days, free agency. Like it's that like slide down into the draft where there's just like the news is actually news instead of just the same old, same old.
Yeah, it's the slow burn of the off season that just picks up by the end, and we're just gonna gain momentum as we get there. All right, so the NFL Combine is upon us. We finally get a link up with the Dynasty team. Hopefully, we'll get to do this again. Get some more guys from the Dynasty team on here to talk about some of these prospects because the class is loaded. But right now, we're gonna go over everything that you guys got to watch for. Anything to bet on come when the stopwatches come out. So, are you guys ready to go? Let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So first off, there's always a lot going on at the combine between the athletic testing, the interviews, and the on-field workouts. As evaluators, how do you guys on the dynasty team sparse through all the things that are happening to find those playmakers that can make an impact in leagues?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting question, right? Because there's a lot to look at. I mean, you could sort of take a couple of different approaches here. I think there's always stats and analytics to look at. There's the tape. We all love being tape heads and looking at everything. And then, of course, for the topic today, the combine, like actually seeing how people measure up. Like those are all valuable inputs there, and so I think they all kind of have different weights. The way I kind of describe how I evaluate players is it's really tape first. It's sort of tape analysis and just sort of general feel is sort of like the cornerstone here. But then you look at the combine and like the workouts to sort of it's either confirming your priors or sort of proving yourself wrong if you didn't see something. So I think about that with really strong athletic traits. Sometimes the interviews themselves at the combine can have an impact there too. A lot of this stuff I think just sort of impacts where we see players landing, because then if they're going to land, in the first round, or they're going to land in a good spot, then I feel a little better about them. So it's kind of a little complicated, but that's how I go about things. Because if you just focus on any one of those things, it can get really noisy and like unpredictable. So just like to take everything, kind of push it all together, but I'd say tape is kind of the main thing to look at.
So you're telling me we put way too much stock into how fast these 40s are going to be.
Hey, I mean, sometimes it just sort of depends on position, right? Like sometimes, if it's like a mind blowing time, like that's obviously going to be a factor. Um, but yeah, there's actually I'll do a shout out. PFF put out an article today. I think it was Kevin Cole that was talking about combine results and just sort of like charting that on fantasy production. And I think that had a lot of interesting tidbits, just kind of on this factor where there are sort of lines you can draw when you sort of put all the numbers together, but unless you're trying to get like really specific on the positions like the position and where it's ranking historically, and the actual like drill that they're running, I'll just take it with a grain of salt,
Right, exactly. So, and from a betting standpoint, V, how much do these workouts play a role in how we see the betting markets unfold as we come closer to the draft, and as does this info help us find any value for the lines that we're going to be seeing a little further down the road?
It can. I think the main bet that you're seeing currently going around town right now is who's going to be the first overall pick. I mean, that's the biggest bet. That's the one you see all over the place. And I think with that kind of pick, it's kind of class dependent. I think if you go back the past few years where it was mainly a quarterback heavy draft classes where we were expecting quarterbacks to go very high in those drafts, the combine wasn't really that important because that's not where quarterbacks shine. Quarterbacks shine in their pro days and they shine in their game tape. They don't do a lot in the combine to help move their stock up and down. But this year, where it seems like we're actually going to get a non-quarterback go first, and maybe first 5 picks, first 10 picks aren't going to be quarterbacks this year, I think the combine could be a pretty big driver in these lines. It can move, the projected first overall pick. This number has changed constantly over the last month or so. I've seen different players be favored like every other day. So I think this is going to be a special year where the combine will make a difference in the betting lines.
Right. I mean, I absolutely agree, because you're right. When it comes down to those quarterbacks, sometimes we just, throw everything else out and kind of rank the top 5 QBs, and those are going to be, 3 of the top 10 picks or 3 of the top 5 picks or whatever. But this year is totally different. The class is so stacked everywhere. So many different positions could vie for that spot, and you might find some value down the road, especially if some of these guys come out and just test through the roof. Because I'm definitely anticipating a couple of guys that are gonna just absolutely be workout warriors. So,
Okay.
all right. So we always hear a lot about the 40. We just talked about it a little bit, and the bench. But those aren't really the most important metrics all the time. What are some key workouts, Ben, that you look for as an evaluator, especially for certain positions, whether that be like 3 cones or shuttles or verts or anything along those lines, or even the on-field workouts?
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it really does depend on the position for sure. I think, Vishal hit on it, like the pro days and things like that for quarterbacks in particular. I find those really valuable. But I think Malik Willis is just one of these players where athleticism can be something where like 3 cone things like that can be really valuable. Just especially because we know, and I think Jalen Hurts is a really good example of this. Like, if you get a rushing quarterback for fantasy and they can just they can kind of get on the field and do something. The numbers are just sort of like the floor is so high that it's just really appealing.
Right.
So, that's something where if you can see that athleticism and you can sort of into that of going to impact where that quarterback's landing, then I think that's absolutely huge. But otherwise, yeah, probably pro days. I think for a lot of other positions, I mean, it's same thing. Like I was saying, like I look at if there's like eye popping numbers, that's really a big thing. But then if you do dig into like some positions, like I think tight end's a pretty good one for this. Like I look at vertical and 3 cone a ton, largely just because I think vertical can get you for all of the different kinds of like playmaking tight ends that we're going to see. That gets you some sort of knowledge of if they're able to go up and get it, the contested ball, like if they're actually able to get up there. So I think that's really valuable to see because you can sort of apply it onto like the natural sort of Y tight end too is going to be trying to be in those plays. But you could also add 3 cone in there too, and then that starts becoming valuable when you're talking about like your Kyle Pitts or your Mike Gesicki's, like some of those like sort of hybrid sort of positions can tell you about their just shiftiness, for maybe lack of a better term, because not a lot of the tight ends are really shifty necessarily, but just can show you how much they're going to be able to get yak and all that kind of stuff. So
Right. So it's more of finding where you really excel and then just like blowing it out there. And your team, if you got good coaching staff or whatever, or if they go to a great spot and a good fit, like that could really mean the world especially from a dynasty sense, they could have tons of value there. And for us, from a betting standpoint, that totally helps us eye out, because obviously the eye popping numbers get the attention of the media, which gets the attention of front offices, because those guys have ESPN on all day, even if they don't want to admit that they do. They're listening to it and they see the numbers. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys come out. I'm expecting some big numbers. I'm really not going to lie. So now we kind of get into some of the fun things. Or no, wait, let's see. Oh, wait, let's hit on another fun one here. So not everything happens solely on the field. The combine usually marks one of the few times prospects, coaches, agents, NFL decision makers, all of that, they all get together in one place. V, does the off-field rumor mill play a factor in how odds makers see these players, or is it all smoke and mirrors and odd makers see through that? Because like you said, a lot of these numbers can go up and down throughout the uh, pre-draft process. Are we going to see some of these numbers drastically change in some values that we should get on early, or do you think that they'll kind of just move a little bit?
Again, I think we could probably see some movement, just because this is, again, not going to be a quarterback heavy draft where we're going to see some skill position guys, some linemen go very early. And in those cases, these combine numbers are just it's going to be hard for some of these front office guys to ignore some of these numbers, whether it's positive or negative. I mean, we saw kind of what happened with DK Metcalf a couple of years ago. He had maybe a subpar, I think it was a 3-cone drill or some workout, and he fell a little bit. And you saw some of the receivers who went before him. Clearly, that was a mistake by those teams, but they based it too much on some of these workouts when it shouldn't have mattered. But we've seen it the other way too. I mean, we saw John Ross go probably higher than he should have, just because he ran such an insane 40 time. So I think on the field, there's definitely going to be some situations where the values are going to shift based on these numbers. I'm not sure if too much off the field stuff is going to come into play. I think the front offices are getting a little bit better at that kind of stuff, where they're not asking these kind of insane questions or allowing these rumors, and they're not taking like what happened to Laramie Tunsil in this, what was it, the weed helmet go
the gas mask
completely like just mess up their draft stock. I don't think these guys care as much anymore about that kind of stuff. It's not so that serious where you're going to impact a guy's future because of something small like that. So I don't really see the off-field stuff mattering too much in this one, but I think the on-field stuff at the combine could matter.
And I think you're right. And I think a lot of, like, especially with odds, I think odds makers and GMs are very similar type of people, really important guys that look at themselves very highly. But then when it comes down to it, they like to copy each other's homework. So you get odds makers who sometimes will, oh, that guy changed something, I'm going to change something. Or
they don't want to be the guy who gets caught out,
right,
exactly, line and then costing their company millions.
Exactly. And it's the same kind of thing with GMs and stuff. And I think we can all say that some of these ones that let the rumor mill buzz around them, they don't necessarily have their jobs come the next year or whatever. Right. So I think the same thing goes with odds makers. Some of them are really good and they don't let the buzz get around, and others, you'll see the lines move that they probably shouldn't. And that's where you can find the value. And I think that definitely highlights shopping around at this time of year, because no lines are going to be straight up the same everywhere. So always try to get that best value. So we've already talked about it. The draft class is super stacked. I know you guys have been grinding the tape. What players are you guys most excited to see coming out? I think one that I'm like extremely excited to see is Derek Stingley. I know Derek Stingley had kind of a little bit of a down year this past season, and he's kind of teetered off from his amazing freshman year. But anything we know about coverage players is that's a tough position year to year. It's inconsistent, and I'd love to see how he tests. And I think that could really help support his draft stock. I love him as a player. I'd love to see where he goes. Who are some of the guys that you guys are highlighting in this class? We'll start with V. What do you think, V?
Some of the guys I'm looking at, well, I'm most interested in the wide receiver class. I think there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty there in terms of the rankings that I see. You look at one person's wide receiver rankings, it looks one way. You look at somebody else, it's just very different. The guys like Chris Olave, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, John Dotson, all these guys, some people can have them very high, some people can have them very low. It just differs quite a bit. So I'm kind of interested to see these guys separate themselves a little bit this week and kind of cement their place in a certain order to make it a little easier on us and kind of just figure out who the true alpha dogs are going to be in that class.
Right. Right. Who do you think, Ben? Who are you liking? Give us the guys that you're highlighting that you're gonna definitely be taking come our dynasty league that I'm gonna just snatch from you anyway.
Big words, big words. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a couple. Yeah, you could kind of put all the receivers in there, of course. I've got a couple other I've been looking at. You know, as a Lions fan, sitting up there at number 2, Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau. Really wanted to watch those guys. Just especially kind of to tie it back to the narrative sort of point. It seems like through the month of February, we've all just sort of decided, hey, it's not really a contest. Hutchinson's just better, and really want to see if there's anything that can spice that up. Just to see how they interview, see if there's any like really great numbers, just coming from the bench or from the agility. I think it's kind of interesting where I feel like both of those guys have kind of opposite physical traits that they would really want to like highlight. So we'll be sort of paying attention to different things. So that I think very interested in. Couple other guys. I think I'm just excited about Brees Hall in general. So I just really want to see some of the agility stuff here and just sort of see maybe if he can separate himself, because he sort of seems like he's that guy that largely, like in these early mock drafts, is separating himself from the other running backs. But seeing if that can be cemented or if someone else jumps over him, that'd be interesting. And then I feel like this guy's getting pumped up, so it's not even like dark horse anymore. But Dameon Pierce, man, he's got the power, he's got the wiggle. Like
the secret's out.
Really fun.
Yeah, the secret's out on him.
Yeah,
and we haven't even tested yet. So watch his stock do Solomon Thomas things and reach the sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we're sort of to blame to this. We did a draft profile on him like a month ago, so we were probably breaking that news, right?
That's right. You guys were first. That's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Take note of that, guys. Everybody at home. All right. And seemingly every year, a portion of the top prospects kind of decline athletic testing portion of the combine, and not everybody can afford to do that. I know we've talked about a few players that we like and that we're looking for, but who, in your opinion, has the most to gain from this combine that really can come out and make a name for themselves with a big performance?
So one guy I'm looking at, I hadn't heard his name until maybe a few weeks ago. I think he's a lineman from NC State. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Ikem Okonwu. I had not heard this name until a few weeks ago. Then all of a sudden, some people had him odds-on favorite to go first overall in the draft. I'm just like, where did this guy come from? So, I mean, if people have him that highly rated, then I think this could be a big week for him, positively or negatively, where he can either go first or he can drop pretty far down. So I think this is one guy I'm going to be looking at, mainly because, again, I just had not heard the name until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And his odds have just skyrocketed over the last 2 weeks too. Like you just said, some of the books have him as odds on favorite. I know one that we pulled earlier has him up there like the third for favorite. That is a huge meteoric ascension, and you're right. That's going to be a huge day for him. So we'll see how he pans out. What do you think, Ben? Who do you think is really just going to blow it out, or who do you think is really just going to fall and tank their stock?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think the main guy I'm thinking about for this, and it's maybe approaching the question a little differently, is someone who could just really move up at the top of the draft, but move up and sort of like, I guess it's beating out the story that's currently there. So I'm talking about Kyle Hamilton. I think, we're all regarding him as, he's an elite safety prospect. He's a really good player. But there's sort of this buzz of like, hey, yeah, he's like top 5, I guess. But then when you start putting him, even top 3, I've just been hearing a lot of chatter about how that feels too rich for some people's blood, just positional value wise, right? Just one of the things that I'm interested to see if it does happen, and maybe it can push him up a little farther, is just I feel like people are ignoring that. At least, we're going to get official numbers in the combine. This dude is 6'4", 220.
Right.
He's got the speed. He's got all the safety skills. Like, I just sort of stacked that up. Like I was looking up linebacker, heights and weights to sort of like get some comps. And like none of these are exact, but like you're looking kind of similar to like a guy like Isaiah Simmons, Darius Leonard, Jamin Davis. But
Right.
imagining that they're a safety and they like have
Yeah.
all that skill and stuff. So
And are probably faster than all those guys listed for sure.
exactly.
Do you
Yeah.
think there's
So
any people who are scared because of maybe if they think it's similar to the Jamal Adams situation from a few years ago where he went super high as a safety, and then
Right.
Seattle traded a bunch of picks for him, but it hasn't really worked out mainly because of his positional value. Do you think there's any fear of that repeating itself?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing, especially with these safeties. We treat them almost polar opposites with guys that play true free and more box and combo. But we've seen some defensives and some coordinators who can really take those hybrid guys and just absolutely make them menaces. So I'm super excited to see Kyle Hamilton too. I think he's going to be a weapon in the league, and I am excited for that.
agreed. Yeah.
All right. So, truth be told, the combine lines are few and far between. Like we said already, me and V had to scour for these ones for all you good people at home. So shop around a little bit. You might find some better ones come closer to workout time, and it should be a good one. So the odds makers love to copy each other. We'll see exactly how they all come out, but most of them should be pretty similar to this. And for starters, let's see here. There we go. We're working, guys. I know how to work the slideshow. For starters, we've got some combine lines here, just some general ones. Fastest 20-yard, 40-yard dash, the shuttles, the vertical, broad, most bench reps, the simple things. So given these lines, do you guys see any numbers that stick out as clear value? And who do you guys think that may be able to pass these lines?
I don't know if there's anything that jumps off the top of my head. For me, I mean, the one that obviously my eyes jump to, most people would be, is the 40-yard dash. It's the easiest for normal people to quantify. You just have to run in a straight line. Can you run this fast or can't you run this fast? So, that's the one I'm looking at. And it's interesting. All of these other ones, they have equal odds on faster or slower, over, under, but 40 is the one that stands out where the faster is the clear favorite over slower on the 4.29. So I think that one's interesting. Ben, who are some of the fast guys we should be kind of looking out for? Who you think could break this number? I think the one I was looking at before his injury was John Mechie at Alabama, but obviously he got injured in the championship game, or was it the game before? And he's probably not going to be participating in this. Who are some other guys we should be looking at?
Yeah, there's a couple. This was when I was looking at bets, I think that one was sort of jumping out to me. And I think the guys that came to mind first were a couple receivers. I think Treylon Burks could be one. But I think I'm feeling a little more confident in Jameson Williams. I think if there's a guy that's going to, get a really, really awesome time, I'm feeling like that's him. I feel like I might be forgetting a defender or two, but really I think Jameson Williams is the guy I'd go with.
Perfect. And just as the degenerate better here, I'm gonna fade both of you guys. Both the guys smarter here than me, and I'm gonna take slower than 4.29 just because it's the nicest odds on the board.
Right.
And generally 4.3 is extremely blazing fast. And you're telling me I got to go 1/10 higher. I'm safe taking that, but like I said, it's also a sucker's bet in some sense because there's so many guys in this class, and we might see a few of them pop this number. So who knows?
But the problem with that is you're gonna have to watch all week and hope every single guy runs slower than 4.29.
That's right.
That
is
I'm gonna bet the over. I'm gonna bet faster, and somebody on
I-
the first day is gonna break it.
I'll be
I'm gonna
shaking
cash
for
in that
3
money.
days on it. Yeah. All right, let's see. Another one that I was really liking that I think is, what do you guys think about like the broad jump at 11.5? Generally, that's a pretty long distance, but we've got some, like we said, we've got a lot of explosive athletes that are going to be coming out. You guys see anywhere that that maybe that number could be reached by anybody? I know that we just talked about some of the wide receivers possibly breaking this 40 record. Could any of them possibly break this broad jump record or this broad jump line?
This one seems a little high. I think they were showing that the record for this one was only 12 feet 3 inches.
12.3, yeah.
So setting it at 11.5 seems maybe a little high. So I'm not a big follower of the broad jump. I don't know exactly what a good number is, but just based on that fact that the highest one is pretty close to 11.5, I might lean towards the under on this one. But I don't know, Ben, is there any super athletes that we should be watching out for who could break this one?
I mean, it's possible, but you were sort of reading my mind there. I feel like I'm staying away from this one. Under feels real safe. For vertical, that's another one where my guy Kyle Hamilton, that he was just one person that I picked for having like the size and like having the really long arms for maybe getting there. But yeah, I think that was sort of the struggle. I think for a lot of these lines is I was trying to seeing basically across the board that it's even odds, trying to come up with a guy where I was almost thinking about records where I'm like, if I think someone's like capable of breaking a record, I'm going to feel good about that.
Right.
But otherwise, it feels easy to just be like, slower under, just sort of fade some of it,
Right. And speaking of records, and it wasn't long ago, John Ross broke the combine record for the 40. So we'll pop over to here. I've got some combine record lines. Ooh, got some combine record lines. And who has them? Anybody popping off here? Anybody taking home the bacon?
Nothing that stands out on this one.
Plant your flag, Ben. 45 inches for Kyle Hamilton. Is it happening?
I think that'd be a good one. I mean, yeah, I'd say I have sort of for the 3-cone. I mentioned Brees Hall. There's a flyer out there. Record breaking's a little bullish, so we'll see if that could happen. I also for bench presses, just because they're massive dudes, I just love the prospects. Jordan Davis and Daniel Falele, I think I'm saying that right, from Georgia and Minnesota respectively. Those dudes are monsters. So
watch Jordan Davis double the record. He puts up 99.
40-yard dash time.
And right, exactly. All right. So, and another easier one I would say is probably going to be our next one here, which is actually positional groupings for some of these, which kind of lets us take a whole swath of players and say, hey, this group is the fastest or this group is the strongest, and this is what's going to happen. So we have a couple of them here. We've got the position lines for the 40-yard dash and the bench press. So with the 40-yard dash, we have guys like the corners who have the highest odds, the running backs who have the longest odds. For bench, we have offensive tackle, linebacker there at the bottom. So let's start with the 40-yard dash. Ben, which position group is taking this home? I know we already talked a little bit about wide receivers at plus 150. That's some pretty good odds. Is there any maybe running backs further down the board that might take this one home?
I don't think so. I like I said, I mentioned my wide receivers before, Burks and Williams. I think those are the guys. And I must have looked at the lines a little bit before you did, because I have something a little bit different to me written down, and this looks much more favorable to my wide receiver bets. So
okay, cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, it might have changed a little bit. I've been doing them on the fly, so let's see. Who do you think, V? You think anybody's coming home with this?
I'll follow Ben. It seems like wide receivers do tend to be among the people who have the fastest time. So he pulled out a couple names. I think I'm just going to tail him on that one. Let's go wide receiver plus 150.
Yeah, at 150. I mean, that's such a good number at 150 too, right? And especially with how modern offenses like to operate with, a couple of extremely fast guys. Everybody wants to copy the Tyreek Hills and stuff. That's how John Ross, got selected so high after going 4.22. There's going to be some guys that are going to be some blazers. So let's see. On the other side here, we've got the bench press. We talked about Jordan Davis. Is that going to be our pick here at plus 175? That's not bad odds. Are there anybody maybe even on the offensive line that might take this home?
Seems like linebacker is probably not a great bet to be bench press. So even though you're getting the best odds there, that one seems a little far fetched. So I think it probably would make sense to go either offensive tackle or defensive tackle. Those are probably your strongest guys on the team. So you might as well just take the defensive tackle. You're getting 25 cents better on it, and it seems like there's a lot of strong guys. We mentioned Jordan Davis earlier. That seems like a good pick.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Anything else on that one, Ben? Any guards in here? Any centers that are just going to blow out the doors?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say when I try and start comparing guys, but I was thinking, is it Linderbaum, the center that's sort of the
Mm-hmm.
top guy there?
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I mean, if I'm looking at the lines more so, if I can get just slightly better odds and pick a different position, I'm like, well, I could go interior and throw some money at him, but
Yeah.
we did kind of already talk about the guys where I'm most excited about.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the thing we can always do is spread it out a little bit. Hedge your bets on one versus the other, and like we said, there's some value on both of those right there. So I think those are both definitely clear good bets. Here we go. My personal favorite part of the combine is always the funnest part. The Rich Eisen 40-yard dash, and mainly because it's just so fun to watch that man struggle for 40 straight yards. It's 6 full seconds of agony, and I don't know. I might be a bad person for enjoying it so much, but I think it's hilarious. And let's see, it's a good cause too. So it's always nice to see that. And I have been a caller on his show a few times, so we're pretty much friends. Not gonna brag or anything, guys. But so his fastest time for the event clocked in at 5:94, with his slowest time coming in at 6.77. Last year he ran a blazing 5:98. The line this year, 6.03. Which side you fellas taking? What do you think, Ben? Is Rich going to do it? Have you watched your Rich tape, Ben?
I did. I pulled open the almanac and was looking at some of his times. He is faster than I thought he was. Like I was looking at like a couple of years back from where we are now. Like I was just looking at the line and seeing how far I had to go basically to get to a point where it was close to losing. I think it was 2015 I had to go back to where he had a 6-1. So that makes me feel good about it. I mean, the lines are even, so it's kind of just for fun. But if it's for fun, I want the exciting thing. I'm always going to go faster.
Right, exactly. And knowing V takes all the unders. No, I'm just kidding. V, what do you
I might
think
take
here?
the slower. The slower looks a little more fun to me on this one. Dude's another year older. Gets
Here
a
we
little bit
go.
slower.
There we
Got to
go.
factor these things in there.
It's a
Wearing the heavy
head-to-head.
suit.
The heavy suit. That's the analysis we're going for. Like, what is the material of these suits that Rich is putting on? Does he go lighter for is it really just like Nike dry fit designed to look like a suit, and that's why he's cutting these times?
That would be pretty diabolical on his end. That'd be pretty smart, though. I hadn't thought of that.
Sponsorship dollars. There we go. All right. We're almost to the end of our time here. It's been nice. It's been good. We talked about it a little bit before, but our parting question here, gentlemen, we've got our way too early first round pick odds. Take a good look. There's a lot of them. Some have no chance, but others do. Who are we thinking we like, Vishal?
So again, it's Jacksonville going up top, so we kind of got to think what they need. They're not going to be in the quarterback market, so we can kind of cross off all of these quarterbacks. I'm surprised some of these guys are even as high as they are listed in here.
Me too.
So you got to think what they really need. They want to protect Trevor Lawrence, I'm sure, so it makes sense that offensive linemen are as high as they are. Their defense played surprisingly well last year, given the limited talent they have, but they can always bolster it if they feel like they need to. But I probably would lean towards the offensive line. It's usually not a bad idea to go that direction when you have a young quarterback, try to give him some protection. So I think I'm going to stick with my guy, Ikem Ekwonu, if I'm saying it right, at plus 700. Just feels like this guy's coming out of nowhere. These athletic freaks just tend to drive way up the board, and I think it's nice value, plus 700.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, I know you've probably been grinding the tape on all of these guys. You got all the ins and outs. Who are we pulling? And do you have anybody like dark horse? And even like, I mean, I know that V did just highlight that the Jags do have the first pick, but granted, this is the first overall pick and not necessarily has to be the Jags if the Jags were to trade it. Not that they really are, but anybody on this list popping out to you, maybe even further down or maybe further up, or what are we looking at here, Ben?
Yeah. I mean, you sort of hit on it. Is I'm like, well, if we're looking, past the past the guy that's at the top there, it makes me think about like, is there the possibility of a trade? And that seems really unlikely to me, just because given that there's not one quarterback that's like really standing out as like a number one overall type selection. Um, I'm just having a hard time imagining someone making a deal that would make Jacksonville say yes, but I think Jacksonville just sort of wants to stay where they are, and if they're smart, I think they should be spending a lot of resources this offseason just focused on that line and protecting Trevor Lawrence. So, like Vishal said, like getting a tackle is probably going to be it. Of course, Evan Neal's like sort of the safe bet right now. I think someone like Charles Cross might be, if we're looking like a darker horse, could be the guy. Just at least my thought process here is, if we're talking about protecting Trevor Lawrence, then I'm really prioritizing pass protection. And just from the little bits that I've seen, Iquanu is, definitely a physical freak, but I think the like calling card is some of the run blocking there. Or like, there's certainly pass protection that comes with that. But Cross is sort of like the pass protection guy, where Neal's sort of like an all around good blue chip looking kind of prospect. So, the safe money's certainly on Neal, but Cross is sort of where I might sort of hedge my bets and put some money in there too, because I think we saw this, what was it, a couple of years ago, when we had, another big group of 3 or 4 really nice tackles, and that felt like a similar narrative where we didn't totally understand which guy was going to go first. And then I'm forgetting which guy it was, but it was a little bit of a surprise. The guy that went to the Giants, I believe.
It was the worst class, Andrew Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it should have been, I mean, history tells us Tristan Wirfs so far. But,
right.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's sort of my thought process there is, maybe some Charles Cross, but yeah, barring a trade, it's really hard to say. And I don't see that happening right now.
And that's right, Ben. You learned the number one rule we have here on Locked In, and that's scared money don't make money. So we're going Charles Cross there, buddy. All right. And then, just to be the lone wolf that I am, I'm going to go with a little bit of another dark horse here. And I'm going to take my guy, Kayvon Thibodeau. I've been watching Kayvon Thibodeau for a long, long time. And for a long, long time, he has been the unanimous number one pick for the class that he comes out in. We've talked about it, and obviously some guys have just sparked and gone crazy. Aiden Hutchinson being one, and that's obviously been the huge conversation through the end of the college season and the offseason so far. We've already talked about how these offensive linemen are rising up this board. I think that the combine is going to be a perfect time for a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau to kind of shut up some of the naysayers. He's a physical specimen. People talked about his motor not being right, but let's see this really pop off here. And I think that that's a good odds at, plus 1,000 there to potentially do this. So I really like that one there. And that about does it for us. Guys, the combine is here. We're ready. The season is almost upon us. The slow burn has begun. And I'm excited. We're going to do this again. It is the first ever collab between the IN betting and dynasty teams. Next time, Ben is going to bring some of his guys along. We're going to talk more about the prospects, probably closer to the draft day. The whole IN team is going to get together on the draft day and talk about it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. Gents, do you guys have anything else to say before we sign off?
No, this is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to watching some of these workouts and then getting closer to the draft. Draft is always a super fun time of year, seeing what happens with all these guys. So looking forward to it.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, basically the same. Looking forward to, just like I said, sort of at the top, I want things to start happening. Some of these dominoes to fall. Maybe we'll figure out where Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing pretty soon here. So I'm just, like this time last year, we had like 5 like huge breaking news pieces by this point. So I'm just like, come on, let's go.
So far, all we've had to talk about is Tom Brady's retirement, retirement. And that's about it. Yep. So we'll see.
More.
But so we don't stop. The IN betting team has a ton of different stuff coming out. Bashal's been working on college hoops. So for any of our March Madness guys out there, come check us out. We've got a ton of good stuff going on. We're going to be breaking down all the conference tourneys. We're going to be breaking down the selection show. We're going to get Jason on for a pod. It's going to be a great fun. Ben, all of Ben's guys do weekly Wednesday player profiles. Some of the best work you'll find out there. Deep dives on some of these even more obscure guys that you don't even know about that are going to make your dynasty team great. So here we go, boys. That's the end. Ben, where can all the people find you on the socials?
Yeah, I mean, of course, come to Important Nonsense and check me out in the Dynasty section, but also if you're on Twitter, at Ben Strauss 2, the number 2.
Awesome. And V, where can the people find you?
Just find me right on the site. Just go to the sports betting section and just look at all the great pieces we printed out. March Madness is one of the best times of the year. I'm looking forward to doing some breakdowns on some of these tournament teams and trying to figure out who's going to win it all.
That's right. V's already making me money on that front. So here we go.
Went 2-1 on Saturday. So
there we go. That's right, V. We're going straight to the top, boys. All right. And that's been it. I've been Mason Cameron, guys, at @football_Mace. Where do I sign that? Right there. That one right there. So check me out on the Twitter. Check out all of the cool stuff we have coming out. And we'll catch you guys next time.